we're live with another episode of the Enter Player 3 podcast. I am your co-host, Josh, joined, as always, with the bearded, beautiful Craig. Craig, how's it going, my man?
It's going.
It's going.
It's going.
That is technically true.
How are things in Freud world?
Things over here are overall pretty good. Kind of had a little bit of a more relaxed week because my wife was off work because it's spring break and she works in the education system, the teacher. And so she had the week off, which was kind of nice. We didn't have to worry about like driving the baby around for childcare because she was just home, got to relax, and kind of the pace of life is just a little bit slower, even though I was still working. But then kind of crazy, there was like a huge, I think they called it like an alarm 3 or something, fire in our neighborhood last night.
Oh God.
So they're building new like condo buildings and townhouses, and it looks like from everything we know so far, the ones that were still like wrapping up construction and not occupied yet were the ones that caught on fire. But they like completely burned to the ground. The cars on the streets nearby are like completely blackened and charred. And then some other houses or townhouses or condos, I think they're townhouses from the picture I saw, around had their roofs like completely burned off.
Wow.
Like I saw pictures of the fire. It was massive. We couldn't see it from our house, and it happened at like 1 a.m. at night. And so, I honestly didn't know. Like Sarah woke up from my wife. She woke up from the sirens and then looked up what was happening, and I was just out. I didn't wake up at all, so I didn't know about till this morning.
I'm like that too.
But it's literally just like maybe 3 blocks away from.
That's crazy.
3 or 4 blocks away from where we live. So yeah, that was like a little rattling, kind of like a sober reminder, like to be safe and stuff can happen. Bad stuff can happen fast. Thankfully, it looks like no one was hurt, so that's the important thing.
That's good.
But yeah, it's been like a long time. At least for me personally, it's been a long time since like I've been close to like a massive fire that was like destructive. You know, like close to where I lived at least.
Yeah.
That's what I woke up to this morning. But we're all safe, as you can see. My house, I guess I'm very lucky, still standing. Fire did not spread multiple blocks, contained. Yeah, what's going on in Tungsten World, Tuggy World?
Oh, just life. Just continue. We're slowly wrapping up construction, renovation. Like the only thing that's left is trim, which trim sucks.
Yeah.
I've decided I dislike trim.
I've never had to put up trim, so
it looks nice and everything, but good. It's not even that hard. It's just so. I don't know. I'm just a baby. That's what it is. I'm just a big fat baby.
You gotta own it.
Yeah, that's really what it is. Okay, so doing floor trim's not bad. Doing door trim isn't horrible, but trying to do ceiling trim is the worst.
Oh, that actually does sound like a pain.
And I'm like, why are we doing this? Is this necessary? Like, I'm looking in my office right now, and I don't have trim on my ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the mudding was actually quite well done, so you can't really see a seam. But yeah, that's really it. There's not been anything going on in my life right now. I'm so bored.
How is the pregnant wife?
Pregnant.
Yeah.
And very, very pregnant. But not pregnant enough yet. I think we're at 6 weeks till due time.
Dude, 6 weeks is pretty close.
Yeah, it is pretty close. We were talking about it the other day, and she's like, "Yeah, I've only got like 6-7 weeks left." I was like, "Oh, what? We're there. It's like right around the corner." So
right, it'll probably go by really fast for you and really slow for her.
I'm sure that's exactly what's going to happen, especially since I got nothing going on right now.
Yeah, the calm before the storm.
Well, yeah. I mean, Kale is all, he's he's 3, so he's still throwing tantrums and stuff, but nothing spectacular that was like noteworthy this time. So yeah, just going about life, doing things.
Does I'm curious, does your wife get any like cravings when she's pregnant?
Not really.
Yeah.
I think with Kale, when she was pregnant with him, I think she craved spicy food here and there.
Hmm.
Um, with Isabella, none.
Yeah.
Not really any cravings.
Yeah.
She has heartburn. She has
Oh,
really bad heartburn,
yeah.
especially if she eats after 7 o'clock.
That's rough.
So she can't eat after 7, which really sucks for her because she's like, "I'm hungry. Give me food."
Yeah.
I'm like, "You're the one who has to deal with the heartburn." And she's like,
That is
"Okay."
rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah got cravings, but they weren't really weird. They were just kind of like random snack foods mostly.
Mm-hmm.
But they would always change. Like it was never very consistent. It was like one week it was this, and the next week it was like something totally different.
Yeah.
And so like I'd just go shopping and have these like really weird things on the just like abnormal things on the list. Like okay, I never really get these at the store, but
Yeah.
weird cracker. All right,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But nothing crazy. Like you hear, like I hear
And
about
like,
like I don't
be
know,
like,
like
"I want a banana pickle sandwich
right,
with
yeah, like kind of
peanut butter
crazy.
and Hershey's chocolate." It's like that. No,
Just weird
nothing like
combinations and
that.
yeah. Yeah, nothing like that for us either. Yeah.
I've never even heard of anybody in real life who's actually had something bizarre like that.
I think I heard, yeah, nothing that crazy. Like I think I've heard a few people like yeah, like spicy. I've heard spicy and I think I've heard like pickles before, but not like weird combinations. Yeah, like
Yeah.
pickle peanut butter mustard or
Ugh.
ugh, that sounds disgusting even saying it.
Ugh. Ugh.
Yeah, like the stuff that's in the movies or whatever.
Yeah.
Haven't really seen or heard that in real life.
Yeah. But right now she's very much like, "Oh yeah, we're done after this one. This is it. We're
Oh
not doing
yeah.
this again." Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
she say the
She
same
is.
after your first
No.
kid? No. Okay.
No, 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 no. Back then we were still on like 3. Let's do 3.
Yeah.
And the closer we got to starting to try for 2, we were just like, maybe 2 is gonna be it because Kale is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're down 2, and now she's like, nope, we're done.
Two's good. Two's good.
Like, I don't think we're gonna take any permanent preventative measures, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
something happens, but we're not trying for more than 2.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. When I always kind of thought it. That's a word, guys. I always thought I wanted maybe like 3, maybe even 4, just because I like the idea of a big family. But and then Sarah was always like, no, like 2, not more than 2.
yeah.
And then now that we have our first, we're like debating about the second. And so
I'm really interested to see what it's like to have 2 kids. And I
yeah.
mean, by interested, I'm like halfway scared and halfway like, oh, what's this gonna be like?
Yeah.
Because like one is a lot, honestly. Like if you're not a parent
Mm-hmm.
yet, you're listening to us, one child is quite a lot.
It really is.
And so I feel like it has the potential to be like, oh, it's more, instead of like the work doubles, it's more of like 1.5% kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, or not 1.5, but like it bumps up by half instead of a whole
Uh-huh.
step up, or it goes into like times 4 instead of times 2.
Yeah, it's
I feel like
variable,
that's
right?
Yeah, I feel like that's exactly what it's going to be like. It's either going to be like way more than you thought 2 would be, or it's going to be less than you think that 2 will be.
Yeah.
Just because you've already got one kid, so you're already doing certain things.
So
So
like
it's not like,
yeah. I'm gonna be really interested to hear from you what it's like to have your second. My theory on having like more than one kid is that like the second time around, like a lot of things become easier or at least less stressful because it's not your
yeah,
first time around. Like, how do you care for a baby? And like, what do you do when this happens? Like, because you've already had your first kid, that stuff just becomes easier and less stressful.
Yeah.
But the overall like workload, right, and like the
Yeah.
overall amount of things to have to do is going to increase. And
You know,
so,
something I think that's going to be interesting, and I feel bad for first children now as a parent, because I'm realizing something that we've worked out with Kale is how we as parents are going to handle punishment
mhm,
and behavior modification and things that we need to do to make sure that our children are doing what they're supposed to do, and that if they're not, there are consequences for it, or figuring out how to reinforce good behavior. That whole, I don't remember what to call the thing, but the whole concept of basically child rearing.
right,
You really, really hammer those fine details with your first one, and it's going to be different for the second one because kids are always going to be different.
yeah,
But at least now we have a strategy that we can stick to and be consistent with, because we've gone through this and understand how things work or don't work.
yeah.
So poor Kale, he was the guinea pig.
The guinea pig.
Isabella, we're going to know what we're doing for her for behavior reinforcement, etc.
Right, right.
And
Yeah,
it's yeah.
that is true. I guess a lot of the parents do a lot of learning with the first child.
Mm,
Um, Although I've also heard that a lot of times parents tend to be a little bit more strict on the first child than the second child. I think that like varies family to family. It's not a
yeah.
guarantee, but I feel like I've had a lot of people say like, "Well, I was the youngest out of 3 or 4, and so like my parents didn't really care at that point, and like I remember my older brothers getting a lot of trouble, but I could kind of get away with stuff, you know." Um,
Yeah, I hope that that's not an issue for me, because
yeah, of course, you
I
hope
don't
that.
want that appearance of favorite to be like, oh, baby's daddy's favorite.
Right, yeah. Yeah, you never want it to
That,
happen, but
yeah.
yeah, I know.
I guess it should, like, you think it shouldn't be hard to maintain consistency in rules across the children.
mhm.
If it's not okay for Timmy to do it, it shouldn't be okay for Davy to do it.
Mhm. Yeah. I think my guess would be it'd just be difficult because of age differences, and so like
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
means the rules are different or like the relevant rules are kind of different.
That's true.
And then like maybe it's hard to remember exactly what your rules were by the time your second or third child is that age, or it's like the guinea pig thing again, right? Where it's like, oh well, we did have these rules for the first kid, but maybe it'd be better if we adjusted them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess we'll
I guess
find
we'll
out,
find
right?
out.
You'll find out first, and then
Uh-huh.
maybe I'll join you at some point. Um,
You start
yeah,
taking bets on who in our friend groups is going to have another kid next,
another kid.
or who's going to get pregnant first next, or
Right, yeah,
next,
because some
next, not.
people still waiting for their first.
Yep.
So, well, why don't we dive into our topic of the day, um, which is Google Stadia. We need to talk about Google Stadia because we started talking about it last episode, but we didn't even know what it was or that it was called Google Stadia. It was kind of mostly conjecture, and boy, do we have a lot of details. Well, maybe not a lot of details. We have a lot more
It's
details.
significant.
Yeah,
I think there's definitely a lot.
and there's been a lot of hot takes on the internet about it as well. Everyone's kind of the discussions died down a little bit by this point, but a lot of people have been talking about it. So, of course, we need to dive in. For those of you who have not been keeping up with the news, Google Stadia is Google's new, not yet launched video game streaming service. All right. So, what Google Stadia is, or the idea behind it, is that you will be able to stream video games through a Google Chrome browser. Um, what we know so far is that their service will supposedly be able to run games up to 4K resolution at 60 frames per second with only a 30 uh, megabyte connection. Um, and then presumably, you could stream at even lower connection speeds to get up to 1080p. They do say the platform will scale down the frame rate and graphics if your internet connection is below 30. Um, Obviously, because the streaming service, Stadia games do require a constant internet connection. Um, can run on any device that has Google Chrome, and that includes phones and tablets, PCs, and then of course TVs, as long as you have like a Chromecast. Let's see. If you're a little bit more nerdy about this, the Stadia data center PCs where the games are actually running will be using Linux.
They have
Um,
specs for those PCs as well out on the
yeah, like the GPUs is 10.7 teraflops, um,
significant.
custom x86 processors, 2.7 gigahertz, 16 gigabytes of RAM. Yeah, there's more specs as well. I'm not going to read them all, but you can look that up if you'd like. Supposedly, they will have Stadia exclusive first party games. Doom Eternal has been confirmed for Stadia. It's rumored that Ubisoft new releases will be on there because they've been working with Ubisoft already. Um, they are developing their own controller called the Stadia controller, which will be required to play games on a TV with your Chromecast. And that is a big bummer. Um, yeah, we can talk about that in a second. You can use whatever controller you want if you are using your PC, right? Any USB connected controller you'll be able to use on your PC. But if you want to use your TV, which I think a lot of people will, you have to have the Stadia controller. So that's kind of a big bummer. Here's what we don't know. We don't know what the minimum internet connection will be. So if you have like 10 megabytes download speed, will that be good enough? We don't know that. We don't know how much latency there will be, right? So latency is the delay of time from when you push a button on your controller to when the action occurs on the screen. That's obviously, we talked about this before, right? That's a huge concern. They're saying it's not an issue. We don't yet know if that's true. We don't know what the prices will be yet. They've said they're not commenting on price yet at this time. So we don't know if this is like a subscription service. We don't know if this is a buy a $60 game through their service and play it through your Chrome browser. Like we don't know any of that. Um, we don't know minimum tech requirements. So if your PC needs to be a certain, what if there's certain tech requirements, or even if your phone needs to have certain tech requirements. Um, yeah, I think that's the big stuff that we're still waiting to hear about. So that is the basic rundown. Like I said, there's been a lot of hot takes about this service. Craig, give me your hot take.
I think there's going to be a lot of very disappointed people at the very beginning of this, at the onset of this. I was thinking about I've been thinking about this since the reveal, and there's actually a lot of different failure points in the system between the data center running the game and your TV screen.
Yeah.
Um First off, like the key, I think the key thing to know is out the gate, the best setup that you are going to have to play a Stadia game is going to be a physical desktop computer,
Mm-hmm.
physically hardwired into your modem slash router.
Yeah.
That's going to be the best. That's going to be the best setup, no matter
Yeah.
what.
Laptop would
Because
probably be a decent laptop might work, but
the issue
still
is that,
hardwired.
yeah, hardwired is always going to be the best way to run this
Yeah.
because Wi-Fi, there's a significant bottleneck when it comes to Wi-Fi. Furthermore, I think I feel like when you say something like anything with a Chrome browser can play this game,
Mm-hmm.
you're only kind of right, because I have a Surface Pro 3, which is great. It's an awesome little thing, and streaming service like Stadia would be amazing because it doesn't have a lot of power in and of itself. However, things like that have very limited hardware, specifically talking about the network card,
Mm-hmm.
the NIC card on, or the network interface card on your computer, on your device. If it is even remotely older, it is going to have a different standard for Wi-Fi or for hardwire. So there's going to be a bottleneck there. If you have a older device that you're going to try and play Stadia on, you're going to have a bad time because it's going to bottleneck because it's not going to be able to put as much data through at the same time that a newer one would. Right now, a new Wi-Fi standard has been released in the last couple months or so, Wi-Fi 6, which it's a significant improvement over Wi-Fi 5. It's very possible that through, if you have, let's say, best case scenario, you have fiber, you are relatively close to a data center, so your ping is going to be pretty small to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
You go out and spring for a $300 router, which is what they are at right now, because
Yeah.
it is a brand new technology, and you have a NIC that also takes Wi-Fi 6, or I don't remember what it's AX. AX is the standard name now for it. So, assuming you have all of those things, it's possible that over a Wi-Fi signal, you might be able to do that.
Otherwise, you're going to want to be
Otherwise, you're going
hardwired.
to have such a bad time. I was playing. So Xbox right now, what you can do is you can wirelessly stream your Xbox feed to a computer that has the Xbox app on it, and you doesn't matter if you're right next to it, you will still incur stuttering, drop frames, loss of resolution, all because that's just what Wi-Fi is right now. It's
Yeah.
not perfect for that kind of thing, and that's being right next to it. That's the actual computer playing the game being right next to it.
Right.
So,
and it's not just speed too, it's the security of the connection.
Yeah. And then it's just the purity of the connection too. There are
Right.
tons of things in your household that can and will and do interfere with that connection. So it doesn't matter that they have graphics cards that do 10.7 teraflops in their computers running the game, because the only thing that really matters is if that signal can get out of that wire and into the screen without dropping a significant amount of data, which for a lot of people, their first try at Stadia will not be an ideal attempt. They're going to do something like, I've got this phone that is probably at best an AC connection, which is still decent, but I've got this phone and I'm going to go ahead and Chromecast Stadia to my TV. And that's another lag point is, the Chromecast. So what's going to happen is they're going to be disappointed because it's not perfect.
Yeah.
And I think that is not a good thing for Stadia. And if they get out ahead of it and be like, look, here's the deal, because of how these things work, this is just a reality. If you want to play for the best experience, do this on a computer. And everyone's gonna be like, well, then what's the point of Stadia if I have to have a computer to begin with?
Right.
Because the point of this is to be able to ditch hardware that is bulky, massive, or not multi-use, something that I have to go buy specifically to play.
Right.
I don't want to do that. The whole point of Stadia is supposed to be that you can use whatever you have that has Chrome on it.
That's true. That's the promise.
That's not going to be the case.
Yeah. You bring up really good points. I do. So here's my prediction about what I think we're going to see: a crazy wide range of like satisfaction and reactions because of exactly what you said. So there's going to be people that are like, so I guess let me back up a little bit more. I also think that there's going to be either some kind of free trial period when Stadia launches, or something free that will give everyone a chance to try it for free. Obviously that won't last, but like I think at least in the beginning they'll probably do something like that. So what I think is going to happen is everyone's going to want to try it, especially if there is some free way to try it. And we're going to see so many different reactions. We're going to see the people on their phones that you just mentioned trying to connect over like not great Wi-Fi, or their phones can't, like, the tech is old or something like that. And it's going to be a really unsatisfactory experience. There will be people trying it in more rural areas where their internet connection is just going to be bad regardless, even if it's wired.
DSL for the win.
Right? And they're not going to have a good experience. And then you'll have some experiences in the middle, and then you'll have people that are doing it on their PC, hardwired into like 100 megabyte download speed or higher, and they might have a really great experience. And so I think it's going to be a really wide range. How that impacts like the overall launch and where Stadia goes, I have no idea. But I do think we're going to see a really wide range of reactions. Some people saying this is really great, other people saying this service is complete trash. Um, but yeah, I think you bring up a really good point where its success on PC is actually maybe kind of pointless, even if it launches really like successfully on PC. When I say successful, I mean it runs really well. Um that might actually not matter. What really counts is how well it launches on these smaller devices and through your Chromecast on your TV, which again you're gonna need a controller, which means the point of
Yep.
entry to get it on your TV is gonna be significantly higher. You're gonna need a
It's
Chromecast and a
plus 60
controller.
bucks. Yep.
Yeah, and so that's a problem as well. Um, so you bring up some, yeah, and I think there's a lot of cause for concern here. What do you think this? So here's something we don't know yet. How do you think they're gonna sell games on here? Do you think it's
I
gonna?
think it's gonna be kind of like what people have been or suspecting. It's gonna they keep using the word Netflix for games, and
Yeah.
I think that they mean it exactly like that. And so you're gonna pay a subscription service, you're gonna have access to their entire library, and
Hmm.
you play what you want on demand.
Yeah.
Uh, my I guess concern about that is like I know people. There are some people who think that developer this is something that developers are going to want to jump on immediately
Hmm.
because it's just more access for your games, and so Google doesn't have to do anything other than allow them to be on. But I kind of disagree because just because of the fact something we've talked about before is just game development is expensive.
Yeah.
And unless you're an indie dev who is trying to get a name and that's more the point of your game than trying to make the money back,
Hmm.
uh, I don't see major developers jumping on this bandwagon. Kind of like I know Ubisoft has been like, yeah, we're interested, cool, because
Right.
this is a cool
Right.
new thing. But I have a hard time seeing the one like of the major developers. I feel like Ubisoft is the one so far, which is so bizarre to say for me. The one so far who it doesn't seem to be driven so hard by the bottom line of their investors and their chair board, or their board and stuff. Because I mean, even though they do like they definitely grind games just into money. I
Hmm.
mean, the Assassin's Creed series and stuff,
Right.
they iterate just for the money, and that's nothing new. But nothing of their actions towards their games has indicated that they are so driven by their boards and by the bottom line that they will do whatever for anything.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, look at EA, who just laid off 300 employees because they didn't
Right.
have a last quarter or a stellar launch, or
They're
we
still
don't know
making
exactly
tons of
what it was,
money,
but
but
they're
like
still making
they're
tons of money.
not
But it wasn't
satisfying
enough.
investors. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't pleasing their investors, and it's starting to show. Look at Activision,
Hmm.
who let go of Bungie basically before imploding because of things happening with their investors.
Right.
When there's problems with those things, they come out eventually. Ubisoft hasn't been doing that, so Ubisoft seems to be more oriented towards making their games good, and I appreciate that about them.
Hmm.
And it shows in their games. Look at
Yeah. The games have
Siege.
been pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And well supported. Yeah.
exactly. So that said, it makes sense that Ubisoft would be the first one because it's like, oh, hey, we could get more gamers or we get more people playing our games doing this because that's what
Hmm.
we're focused on. We're not so focused on making money at all costs. We're focused on getting our games into people's hands and playing or them playing it because we know we will make money that way. And I
Yeah.
think that's
Well,
smart. But I
that
don't think Activision, EA, those other major publishers, I don't think they're going to see it. I think they're going to be like, well, what do we get out of this? What is our cut? What are you taking away from our sales in order for us to publish on your platform? Why would we do that when we have our own platforms that we can publish on that already work and disseminate our games properly?
right. I mean, I think yeah. I actually think it's I think the broader question here is, if this is like a subscription based kind of service, is there actually enough profit there
Yeah.
for these big developers, right? And even for Ubisoft, they have been kind of a part of this Stadia launch, or it hasn't launched yet, but this project, and expressed a lot of interest in joining with Google. But if the money's not there, they're not going to stick around.
Correct.
Um, they do need to make money for their games, just like, you know, of course anyone does.
Well,
And,
I think sticking around for Stadia, I don't think it'll hurt them to begin with, because the failure of Stadia is like, if Stadia were to fail,
mhm.
um, there's really not a lot of repercussions for a developer who's on that platform. Like, unless you're a small developer who's like, I am putting my eggs in this basket, you know, like
Well,
there's
I'm
that. But for Ubisoft, they're going to continue. You know, all of their games are still going to disseminate normal.
well,
It's
yeah, but
just
it could hurt.
additional.
It depends on what their revenue, what kind of money they would make from Stadia. Because, for example, say Stadia costs like $10 or $15 a month to subscribe to, and the new Assassin's Creed is on it. I could in November go spend $60 for the new Assassin's Creed, or I might decide, you know what, I'll buy 1 month of Stadia for $15 and play the Assassin's Creed game and then unsubscribe afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case,
They're not
then
making their
they're
money
not
back.
making as much money. They're not.
No.
And that even that $15 isn't going all to them. They probably get a small cut of that because that's, you know,
Yep.
that's going directly to Google, and then Google's going to give a cut, I'm sure, to, you know, I don't know how they're what the revenue share is going to be, but it's going to be a share. And so instead of making $60 for their game, now they're making like maybe 5 or 8 or something. And so that's where I think it could hurt if there's not enough people. Like, these streaming services are only profitable for everyone involved if the subscription numbers are high enough.
This is true.
um, and so that's, I think that's one of the bigger questions for these, you know, these big video game developers is, you know, is this actually going to be profitable for me to join? Because if
Yeah.
not, they won't join, and then Stadia is going to really struggle. Here's where I think the games that could be very successful potentially on a service like Stadia are free to play games, because their whole revenue, their whole revenue stream is based on in-game purchases anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so those games could actually be, you know, like Apex Legends, for example, which there's the whole latency becomes a much bigger issue. But if that was somehow solved, then I could see that being, you know, kind of a maybe a helpful thing. Like, oh, I can play Apex Legends and I don't need a good PC and I don't need an Xbox. Um, but yeah, there's still a lot of questions there, and I not very many people are going to want to subscribe to a Stadia service that has a ton of free to play games. Like, if that's their main, right, like,
Yeah.
offering. And so I don't know. I do see a lot of problems, a lot of unanswered questions here.
I just have a really hard time believing that the cost of this is going to be nominal.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it, just because of what you said is exactly. I think you take that risk if you join in on Stadia as a developer, because I like my first thought is, well, you're right, but I don't know how many people are actually going to be able to do that, because for starters, again, launch has to work out well enough that there's enough people who maintain their subscription
Mm-hmm.
and can actually play the games at a
Yeah.
suitable level.
Yeah.
And so what we're talking about here is probably a smaller subset of subscribers who have the ability to play, um, because their network is sufficient,
Right.
um, and are willing to dedicate the amount of time to burn through a game within a month and then dump the subscription afterwards.
Yeah.
So like I feel like the crossover for all of these different aspects of this type of person are going to narrow the field enough that they feel comfortable taking that risk. I feel like they're probably not going to. I feel like they're probably thinking they're not. There's not that many people who would do something like that. Um, and so it's a risk worth taking. But you're absolutely right. There are a lot of people who do that, and it very well could turn out. I mean, look at MoviePass.
Yeah.
MoviePass was very similar in the sense of, oh, if we get a subscription service going and we have enough people, then this can be sustainable. And what happened was they didn't get enough people, and they had all the people that they are getting were completely abusing the system.
Yeah, yeah, it was an insane
Abuse.
system.
It's not abuse when that's how the system is set up. They're
Right,
using
but
the
they were
system
taking
to
full
its,
advantage of it, and
yeah, they're taking full advantage of it, and they weren't counting on that. And then Movie Pass died.
yeah,
So it could turn out that way too.
yeah. So I
It's
mean,
just
I
hard to
think
it's really hard to speculate.
it is hard to speculate. So like, I want to try to set all the technical questions aside for a second, because so they're very valid. They're very, very valid. But that's one of the things where it's like we kind of have to wait and see. Can Google
Mhm.
actually deliver on
Yeah,
these technical promises? If they can't, it's the service is going to sink. It's just not going to. No one's going to pay
yep,
for it. But if they can deliver on it like they're promising, then I think the interesting question is, will it still be successful based on some of these other aspects? And I do think the subscription idea of the subscription model is a promising one, because all other media is run on it now. How
yeah,
we consume TVs and movies is all based on streaming services like Hulu and Netflix. How we consume media is now, or sorry, audio, music is now based on like Spotify, Google Music. I know people that subscribe to that. iTunes, you can subscribe to that. I think there's iTunes streaming
yeah.
service. Uh,
Spotify's better
yeah, I
at
use
me.
Spotify, but I know I'm sure that people could debate that. But so the promise is there, the market for streaming service is there, um, but what will the cost be, and will it be profitable for game developers? Is interesting. So Laserhawk05 actually asked an interesting question in the chat just now. He asked, what if they set it up like a TV subscription where you get some base games for a base subscription fee, like $10. Then you can buy additional passes, like an EA pass or an Epic Games pass or the Bungie pass, and you would get all of their games for an additional. So kind of like this a la carte type of subscription service,
Yeah,
which is interesting. So cable TV does offer subscriptions like that, right? Or I guess we don't really call it a
even
subscription, but
even streaming services now offer that kind of a la carte thing, especially for like premium channel stuff,
that's
like
true. Yeah,
HBO,
like
Showtime,
HBO.
Cinemax.
That's
Yes,
true. Yeah. Um,
Noggin. Gah,
so that
freaking
is
Nickelodeon.
I think it's an interesting idea. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that idea? I think it's interesting. I don't know if we'll see it, but it's an interesting idea.
Business wise, it makes sense to consider. Personally, as a consumer, I hate it.
Yeah.
I freaking hate it so much.
Yeah.
Right
Consumer,
now,
you want
okay,
it
so
simple, you want it all, right?
yeah, so I pay for Hulu Live TV Plus, and ad free because screw ads, hate ads. And then Amazon Prime, but then we also have to have Noggin, which is $7 a month on top of the Amazon Prime membership already,
Hmm.
because that's literally the only place where you can watch Paw Patrol
Hmm.
is on Noggin,
Yep.
and
And you
I
need
hate
that
it.
Paw Patrol,
And I need
huh?
I have to pay $7 a month to watch Paw Patrol. And it's
Yeah.
not even the full series. It's like the first 4 seasons. I'm like, you own the series. I'm not gonna pay you. I'm paying you $7 a month. Give me the whole freaking series.
Uh-huh.
I really dislike a la carte. I loved having. I had HBO for a while. I had Stars for a while because they have cool movies and stuff on them.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed having them, but it's just such an like the whole point of cable cutting is that it's cheaper and it's on demand.
Yeah.
When you start throwing on these a la carte channels that are premium or whatever, it gets right back up to that same price. If you owned every single a la carte subscription that you could on Hulu or Prime, because they tend to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
I think my Hulu, if I did it on Hulu to like 100,
Hmm.
which no, I'm like, literally, again, I dumped satellite so that I wasn't paying that much money.
Right. Right.
I don't
Yeah.
want to do it again.
Yeah.
And that's what a la carte does, is it just jacks up the price on you, and it's like, oh, a little bit here,
It's
there.
true.
Personally, as a consumer, as a nearly 30-year-old man who has been through this pony show before. I'm just like, I'm not interested in that. I'm not going to do that. Like, is all the
Yeah.
idea already pushes me away.
Yeah, my reaction to that idea is that it isn't very consumer friendly, but that it is developer friendly because what
Agreed.
you could do is like say there is a like an EA pass, and if you pay the a la carte price to get the EA subscription pass, you get all the EA games. Um, then like net or not Netflix, Google could set it up where they get most of that revenue, and so I could see it being like a little bit more developer friendly, so they have a little bit more control about how much revenue
Yeah.
they're getting. But yeah, I
Agreed.
don't think it would be very consumer friendly. I don't think consumers would like it. The only situation in which it would be a little bit more consumer friendly is if the amount of games available on Stadia was so massive, right? So many different games from so many different developers that it was obviously be way too expensive to for Google to be able to offer all those games for a cheap subscription.
Yeah.
And so then instead of being like, well, now you have to pay $50 a month, but you get access to everything, which maybe they offer that, but they also say like, you could also, if you just want all the EA games, you could just pay an extra $5 and get all of that. Like that's the case where maybe be a little bit more consumer friendly. But again, that's in like the situation where the amount of video games they're offering is so much that like
Yeah.
that the value is actually there. Um, and they're not going to launch like that for sure. And I don't know if they'd
No.
ever get there. So I'm sure they'd love
Well,
to
and
get
then
there, but
on top of that, Google has created their own first. Oh
party.
my God! Thank you. Their own first party developer. So
Yeah,
they have Google Games now, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of them for sure.
yeah.
But I think if they're going to rely on that heavily to draw people in, that I wouldn't put too much faith in that personally.
No, I mean, it'd have to be some killer first party games that
Yeah,
everyone's. It's like the new Apex Legends, for example, where everyone's talking about it and everyone wants to play it. Like it'd have to
yeah.
be that kind of level of.
Or like top tier. This should probably be on Sony exclusive
Mm-hmm.
first player or single player games and things like that.
Right.
I I don't know. I could be wrong. This it would be something I would be happy to be wrong, but I just have a hard
Yeah.
time seeing it when they don't have experience in
Mm-hmm.
that role. And I think the closest thing Google has experience to is developing mobile games.
True.
And they have a whole entire industry to look at, and so I guess it really comes down to what lessons are they going to take from industry? How are they going to implement them? Uh, on another note, though, there is one other um, monetization scheme that they could utilize,
Ads.
and I think it would absolutely destroy the platform before it is even born.
Yeah.
I cannot, like, oh god, if they used ads to monetize Stadia and keep it cheap or keep it free,
Yeah.
I would be completely uninterested. Like I just said before, I pay for Hulu to be ad free.
Mm-hmm.
I just did the YouTube Premium for free, or for 3 months for free thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it just ran out, and I am going through withdrawals
Yeah.
because I hate ads so much.
Yeah.
And I cannot even begin to imagine seeing ads in my game, like in the middle of loading screens,
Mm-hmm.
or see a Mountain Dew ad while I'm running through a deserted city or something like that, and just be like,
Yeah.
really, really, I'm paying you money. Don't
Right.
give
I
me
think
ads.
yeah, I don't think like whenever there's been ads kind of shoved into especially paid streaming services, the reaction is almost always negative. And I
Yeah.
kind of also have a sense that the gaming community will be far less tolerant of that.
Oh
Right?
yes.
Now, like the TV viewing community, I think is a little bit more tolerant of it because it's always been a part of watching TV, right?
Yeah.
If you have cable TV, every like 8 minutes of the show you're watching, there's a commercial break. And it's just so ingrained into consuming that type of media that people are a little bit more tolerant of it. I love watching Netflix and not having to worry about any ad breaks. But like we do have a Hulu subscription, and it's not the ad free one. And while it's annoying, like I'm conditioned in a
Yeah.
way to like tolerate it. But video games,
Mm.
that's a whole nother story.
It's
Like
never ever.
I have to watch
It's
an ad in between levels or something. Like that's gonna drive me insane. And I
I
think,
would not play the game. I just wouldn't.
yeah,
It wouldn't matter. Like
especially
I
again if it's not a free service, right? If you're paying for the
yeah.
service and then there's these ad breaks or something. Yeah, I am with you. I think that would kill the service. I think there'd be so much backlash against that.
Yeah.
Um,
Or like um or if there's in-game monetization,
hmm,
MTX, if there's microtransactions in the game, multiple monetization schemes, like it would just be, oh dude. Like
yeah.
including ads on top of ads.
Oh, on
Like
top
the
of
whole
ads,
thing,
yeah,
not just like, you pay for the game and then there's because that's a thing that
that's already a
exists.
thing, right?
That's yeah. Um but no, I just mean and then if you throw ads into any at all, it's just unbearable. Even I feel like even a free to play game, like completely free, this game is 100% supported by ads. Please watch our ads so that we can continue to be paid. Even if they're completely transparent about it and everything, it would still be so hard to just okay, I can do this ads.
Right. Yeah. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that there's no ads. And that they monetize it in other ways, but we don't know. I mean, that's one of the things we still don't
Yeah,
know. Um, yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
my so here's my like my overall kind of hot take. I don't know if it's very hot, but kind of feeling about all the Stadia news. I also share a lot of the concerns about the tech challenges, the costs. How is this all going to work out? I don't know. But I remain a little bit excited and hopeful, and here's the main reason why. Because even if they fail, they're trying to push technology forward. They're trying to innovate in the video game space. And video gaming has benefited so much over the years from bold innovation. Like, I mean, like, think about how popular the Wii system was from Nintendo. And even like how popular the Nintendo Switch is now. I don't know if you remember when the Switch was launched, people were spelling its doom like from the announcement of the Switch all the way up to the launch. They thought the launch was going to flop. They thought that the Nintendo Switch was a stupid idea. Why would you want a handheld device like that? We already have the Nintendo DS. That this is gimmicky. It's more gimmicks from Nintendo, and the Switch is like one of the most popular platforms right now. Everyone loves it, and it's because Nintendo dared to innovate. One of the things I love about the company, instead of just playing it safe over and over, right? Like Sony has been doing. Sony is like kind of innovating in the VR space a bit, which I give them credit for, because VR is another space that tends to get criticized a lot, but the potential of it is massive. And for some reason, I don't know. I think there's like this tendency by I don't know if it's just the internet in general or if it's gaming internet specifically, but I feel like there's this tendency to be like overly critical and overly like negative about new potential innovation. Like to kind of cry out or predict its doom or say that we don't want it or that it's stupid or whatever like before we even get our hands on it. um and if that's always the reaction, like we're never going to move forward, right? That's like
Mm-hmm.
that kills innovation. Even if attempts fail, that's you build off of it. That's failures are necessary for success when it comes to innovation. And so that's kind of where my excitement is coming from. I don't know if Google's going to be successful. They could totally flop. They could totally fail at this. Um, but I still like what they're trying to do, that they're trying to innovate, that they're trying to create a brand new type of video game service. That if they actually deliver on all their promises, could be really cool, could open the doors for a lot of people to play video games that maybe they wouldn't have been able to beforehand. Um, and could change the video game space in a pretty big way. And so that's kind of where my excitement comes from. all the questions and concerns are totally valid. I can't discount them. But I think that's where my hope and excitement comes from. Is just like I like to see companies try new things. I guess is what I'm getting at. Um, yeah, that's my take. I guess.
I've just been so conditioned from just the rest of the games industry to not get hype anymore.
That's fair
From
because there's so
all
many
the
like broken
failures,
promises, right?
disappointments,
Yeah,
letdowns,
yeah,
I'm done getting hype.
right. It's why I should never pre-order
Yeah,
nowadays, right?
don't
Don't pre-order video
pre-order.
games.
I
You,
was
whoever's
I didn't
watching
get
and listening.
I didn't get hype for the Division 2. Division 2 is great. I didn't get hype for Anthem. Anthem is the biggest flop since
Oh my
ever.
god, we could probably spend an episode on
Ever.
that.
I don't even think
Yeah,
I can't think of a precedent that was okay, ET. You know what? To back it up, ET was probably the biggest flop, followed by Anthem.
yeah,
At least Anthem is playable ish, kind of. But
yeah,
yeah, no, I can't get hyped for stuff like that anymore, especially when it's so risky. At the end of this, I mean, the downside is if it is super successful, I also won't get to be like, yeah, I was right, I told you so.
yeah.
Conversely, I also don't have the letdown of it if it is disappointing. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a trade-off. If it is successful, I'm sure I'll probably at least check it out. We'll see.
Yeah,
I don't know, like, financially and with all. 'Cause I have an Xbox. I actually have two Xboxes. I have a PS4 and a Switch
yeah,
and a gaming computer.
yeah. You're pretty
So
set.
I'm pretty set. Like, I can play on whatever platform I want already as it is, and so Stadia would just be, you know, another on the wall. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm at the point where I'm kind of like, oh, do I need to? Do I want
Right.
to? Not to
Yeah.
mention with subscription services, you know, there's Nintendo Online,
Mm-hmm.
um, the Xbox Live,
Yeah.
Game Pass,
I know.
all of my TV
All
services.
the
I'm like,
consoles
I
have
really
subscriptions, right? Yeah,
cannot add another subscription service. So, like,
that's true.
if
It's a
so
good point. The
for me
market's so
personally,
saturated.
it is very saturated, and my finance is saturated with it. And if I pick up Stadia for more than 1 month, assuming that it is at an affordable place and
Mm-hmm.
it is more than just a experiment
Right.
for the purposes of review, I have to get rid of something. Something has to go.
Right.
And the only thing that, like, is a subscription service that can really technically go that Stadia would replace is Xbox,
Mm-hmm.
which would also then mean that my entire friend group would have to also abandon Xbox in favor of Stadia. And this is all assuming that the most outlandish promise for Stadia is that you can play multiplayer games on it is actually true. And
Right.
of all of their claims, that is the one that I am like,
Yep.
nope, show me, prove
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. That the latency is actually low
I
enough to play a
do not
first
buy it.
person shooter game is that is my biggest doubt as well. I need
I
to
have
see
an
it.
Xbox. Everything is hardlined. Yes, I have DSL, but it's still broadband. And you know what? I still lose fights due to lag. I
Mm-hmm.
still die because the other person has a higher or a lower ping than I do, or higher ping. I don't know how it works sometimes. But, you know, like, I'll shoot somebody, they didn't take any damage because I was already dead by the time the bullets managed to register on their end.
Right.
So, you know, and that's with everything as it is now.
Yeah.
So it's really, really hard for me to believe that
Yeah.
something that I know has bottlenecks in my current network will work better than the hardware that I have. I just
Yeah.
don't see it happening.
Yeah.
So even if Stadia is extremely successful because it can manage to do first player or single player games with minimal to no input lag, but it can't do multiplayer games, it's just not going to work. And again, on top of that, we have to assume that all the publishers that I already own
Yeah.
games from are going to jump on board on
Right. That the
Stadia, and
service
I'll
will
have
actually be
access to
worth
the
it.
games that,
Right. That the
again,
value's
I
there.
already own.
Yeah.
It's a
Yep. The
really,
value has to
really
be there.
big ask.
It's a huge ask, and I don't think they'll be able to deliver on it, at least at launch. Like,
Yeah.
I think their best hope is to launch one with a very technically sound product, which again is huge. But if they can launch with a technically sound product to then also start with a cheap subscription
Hmm.
option, with some decent offerings, obviously games to make people want to subscribe, but that you basically start small and try to build off of that.
Yep.
Like a lot of really popular streaming services did, right? Netflix did not
Yep.
have the library that they do now when they first launched. And to try to build from there, I think that's probably their best, because
Yeah.
there's no way they're going to have to basically, there's no way they're going to be able to get you as a customer at launch. I just don't see it happening.
No. No.
Maybe like a year from now, right?
Yeah.
If their launch is sound and they keep improving and keep adding tons of titles, old and new. But at the beginning, I don't see it happening.
Were I
Yeah.
running the Stadia program, my my initial thought for best adoption would be wait one more year, release in summertime, maybe spring, but wait till just before the release of the brand new console generation,
Hmm.
because PS5, Xbox, next gen Xbox is coming um, fall slash holiday of 2020.
Yeah.
We're pretty certain of this. This is something that I would bet on. Wait until then, snipe them out, get out ahead of their releases, and do absolutely everything in my power to influence the third party developers who are already on those two platforms to also be on my platform. Give people as little reason as possible to adopt the new generation of consoles. And I know this is shady and sneaky AF when it as like a business kind of practice, but this is the I think that is the best case scenario for Stadia adoption, is to
Hmm.
give gamers, give hardcore gamers the least amount of reason to adopt the new gaming systems
Yeah.
by leaving them only with their first parties that they won't part,
Yeah.
that will only be on PlayStation, that will only be on Xbox. And it's going to be really hard to do on Xbox to begin with because Xbox is really opening everything they've got.
True.
So,
What if there was
but
a Stadia
I'm
app in Xbox?
there's that too. Stadia app
That
and
would actually
Xbox,
be pretty
or
huge.
Xbox Live and Xbox Game Pass in Stadia do that too.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, do that. Like try make they Microsoft's been super open. Try and get all of their stuff on Stadia, and then take from PlayStation what you can take.
Mm-hmm.
Get everything out of their exclusivity, and leave people with little to no reason to actually pick up a physical.
Yeah.
And that is your best chance of success with Stadia, because
Right.
then it's like, well, we've got everything they've got,
Mm-hmm.
and for us it's only a nominal monthly payment, whereas with them it's a $500 in
Yeah,
just
especially again. I mean, that's a good point. Especially if it's like again, right? Like, so the PS5 is announced, and it's like all our stuff's gonna be in 4K at 60 frames per second. You just need to buy this $600 console or whatever.
yeah.
And then Google's like, well, we can also do 60 frames per second at 4K, and you don't
Yeah,
have to buy anything, right? If they actually
so you might have
deliver
to
on
buy a
that,
controller. Yeah, you
right?
might
You might
have
have
to
to
buy a
buy a
controller.
controller, but then it's
Our
like,
in
okay,
is like $400 to $500 cheaper than their in, and we've got all
right.
the games except for maybe that one at launch, so
Right. Yeah. We don't have that one exclusive, but we've got all this. And so
yeah.
if they can do that, then yeah, that's a good point. That could
but
be their in, right? That's a
but
pretty
that's not
good
what they're gonna
sell.
do. But that's not
Yeah.
what they're gonna do.
Yeah, I guess
They're
maybe not.
releasing in fall of 2019, which is a year before these consoles exist, which will exclude a lot of people like me.
Yeah. But
And
well, if it's a soft launch though, and then
it's true.
maybe they have like the big
It's true.
reveal in 2020, right? Of here's like we've been like refining our tech, we've
Yeah.
been taking all the feedback, making improvements, patches, all that stuff. Then it could still work, but yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. We'll have to see,
I
I
guess
guess.
that gives them, they still have that whole year to work to be like, okay,
Yeah.
let's get all
Which is probably
and
extra important
cut them
for a
off.
for a service like what they're trying to do. So
It would be. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
because, putting aside all of the technical difficulty, the thing that is most important is that they have a variety of people actually want to play.
right.
And
All
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
We actually got to wrap this up, and which means we will not have time to talk about all the games we've been playing this week.
It's okay. All
Um,
I've been doing is playing Destiny.
yeah, you've been on that Destiny grind.
Iron
Um,
Banner week, baby.
oh yeah, the old Iron Banner. Had some good and frustrating times there in the past. Um, but maybe next time we can talk a little bit more about the games we've been playing. We just need to wrap up today because we are running out of time. Um, so I want to say thank you to everyone who tuned in on Twitch while we streamed live or is watching this later on YouTube. You matter a lot to us. We really appreciate your support. Um, Please leave us if you like our content, then like the content, and also leave us some comments about what you think. What do you think about Stadia? Do you think it'll be successful? Is it a service you might be interested in? What are your concerns about it? We would love to hear about that. Also, do you have more than one kid? And would you like to tell us what that's about? Because Craig is getting very close to experiencing that himself. And so we'd like to hear. I know some of our listeners have more than one kid, and so we'd love to hear from you about that as well, or any other thoughts you have. Um, but that's going to be it from us today. It for the EP3 podcast. I've been co-host Josh, joined as always by the lovely Craig. We will be back next time. Have a great week.